Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I finally got around to watching the Craft sequel, The Craft Legacy. Um, it was okay. It was interesting. It made me want to watch The Craft again. So now's sort of like a review slash comparison video. But the original film came out in 1996, so I didn't see it in the cinema. I saw it on video or TV. I can't remember if I saw it on video or TV. But I saw it once back in the day, and I actually liked it, and I thought, well, it was really good. It was sort of a horror film, but not really. I liked it, and I never watched it again. I just didn't think about it. Later, I bought it on DVD because it's a classic, and I remember it being great, and I just thought, well, I have to have that. And I watched it once on DVD after I bought it, and I remember I enjoyed it. It held up. It was as good as I remembered. But then again, sat down, never thought about it again. And I have a lot of DVDs I've watched once and never seen again. So it wasn't exactly something I sort of lived with. And it took me a long time to realise that Fairuza Balk, or whatever her name is, I can't never say her name right, she was actually Dorothy in Return to Oz. I did not realise for the longest time, but she was great in it. And the film was very much, had a cult following because it just showed girls just having a relationship as friends, and it wasn't about chasing a guy, or that they were very much the main characters, and it was all about them. And the film did fairly well back in the day. It cost $15 million. It made $6.7 million on the opening, and I think it made $55 million altogether, which is apparently the 11th highest grossing witch film since like 1980 or something. And yeah, it had a real cult following. I heard a lot of people talking about it, referring to it over the years, but I never really sort of watched it again. Now this film, I mean, they announced they were going to do a sequel, and a lot of people got upset because, you know, how can you remake a film like that, blah, blah, blah. And some people claimed it was going to be, you know, woke and they were going to ruin it and all that. And I wasn't really interested in watching it when I saw the trailer, because I just sort of, nothing about, the girls didn't interest me. There was nothing, like, I mean, Fairuza was amazing, Nave was good, what was it, Robin Tunnelly? For the longest time when I was watching the film again, I was like, oh, she's been in something. What was she in? The one from, no, not Bones. No, damn it. The show with the guy from, Serenity. I've forgotten the name of the show. Damn it. Yeah, okay, so she was in a big show. So I recognise her after the fact. Oh, I'm glad she went on to something. And the other girl, Rachel True, I don't know what else she did, but they're all really good, and they're all just spot on. They just give amazing performances. These girls, they just seemed kind of nerdy, and I wasn't impressed by any of them in the trailer, and I just wasn't going to watch it until I happened to notice it at the library, and I thought, well, I'll just get it out. It's not going to cost me anything. It'll be interesting to compare the two, to see how they did it, like, you know, almost 20 years later, because, like, the original I said was 96, and this was 2020, so that's almost 25 years. Often with these sort of films, they either just remake the same film and just have different characters, and it's just a reboot, and it's very thinly veiled. Other times they go too far and it's totally unrecognisable. This film kind of does both, which is weird. It starts off with these girls just meeting up. There's three of them trying to do witchcraft, and they need a fourth. They meet a girl who they realise has powers, and they talk to her. They bring her into their circle, and they start just playing. And there's a lot of the movie where these girls are just hanging out, finding themselves, because they were very much, you know, the nerds and geeks, and then they sort of gain some confidence in themselves once they sort of found their power in that. And there's a lot of the film is just that. It's quite fun. And then they get into the negative stuff, because what the original did, and the main difference is, the original film had the girls basically not being able to handle the power, not dealing with it properly, being corrupted by it, and then they sort of turn on each other, and one of the girls basically has to bind the other girl's powers, and she was, I guess, the most powerful, but she never misused her power, really. So she sort of left with powers and left the others without powers, and left, I can't say her name, Fairuza Balk, in a mental asylum. That's sort of how that film ended. And I kind of found that sad watching it back. I'm like, oh, they found this power, but then they couldn't handle it, and it turned bad, and they turned bad, and then it became like a horror movie where they were fighting each other. It wasn't like they were fighting some person. Whereas in the sequel, the girls, although they do sort of have a moment, ultimately they end up fighting a villain. So it's a very different dynamic where the girl power doesn't get broken up, the band doesn't break up, if you know what I mean. So I did enjoy that part of it, but while I was watching it, I sort of thought, when is something going to happen? It's just the girls having fun and then hanging out with this guy, and then it was like not a lot happened. I felt like the original had a lot more in it. That's why I had to go back and watch it again. But then I also realised I was doing other things while I was watching it. It was just playing in the background. I wasn't sitting down watching it properly because I don't have the time to actually sit and watch a film anymore. So I went back and watched it again properly, a bit more, like from about 40 minutes in or something. And I realised I actually put they put a spell on this guy. I thought that this guy had just sort of decided to not be an a-hole, because he was an a-hole at the start of the film. And then he just sort of was suddenly really, I won't use the word, but he was, just doing everything right, saying everything right, and they just loved him, they were hanging out with him, and he just was like, trying to get the other guys to hang out with the girls, and it was just really weird. And I thought, why did he suddenly turn good? I thought that he was faking them out and trying to lull them into a sense of security, and then they were going to get them like at the prom, like at Carrie or something. But what they did was they put a spell on him, which I missed, and they had turned him into this, his best self, which meant he was totally woke, and I really liked him at that point. And then he actually came out as bisexual, and he had made out with one of his friends who was the brother-in-law of one of the girls, and he sort of told them the truth, and he unburdened himself, and it was an interesting speech about bisexuality and gender, and the fact that he's like, people think you have to be gay if you've been with a guy or whatever, and you can't just be yourself, and he felt like he could be himself once he talked to them. It was quite a nice moment. I liked him, this version of him, before I realised that was something they did to him, and then you sort of realise that it was actually quite a huge violation. And it was really weird. It's really weird, the process. And then she put another spell on him, a love spell on him, and they made out, and then he went home, and then apparently he himself. So I was like, wow, why? I didn't understand. And then I thought, you know what? I'm spotting a villain here. I think maybe he killed him because he was too, in touch with his feminine side and open with being gay and all the other things that he sort of was that made me actually like the character. And then, as it turns out, David Duchovny is in the film, who plays the father-in-law, because the whole film starts with this girl moving to this town because her mother's getting with this guy. And he's actually a warlock. He goes around the country or something doing talks on male and masculinity and all this. And it's all a little warped, but it slowly builds to see that this guy's, a bit warped. And it turns out he's a warlock, and he's trying to destroy her or something. So it's a bit unclear exactly why he's the bad guy, but there is a cynical little thing of course, they had to have a bad guy. They had to make a man the bad guy in this because, it's girl power. And I'm like, but at least I like that better than them turning on themselves. So they're actually facing an outside situation. I didn't really like the way the film went, but some people said it was great, the original film, because it was sort of an honest sort of look at female relationships. Apparently they're not very solid or something, that women can't really support each other and end up turning on each other, which is something I've always heard and seen, and so forth. So I didn't enjoy it as much the second time after seeing the remake, because I like the fact that they did stay together. There's a moment where after this guy has died, the girls sort of say, you misused your power, you abused it, we don't want to sort of do this, we don't want to be with you anymore. So they kind of break up with her, and when she goes to them for help, when she realises this guy's a warlock and, she's going to have to deal with him, they kind of ignore her, but then they come through at the end and they save her and they defeat him, and then everyone lives happily ever after. And I kind of enjoyed it, but the characters didn't have the same sort of like charisma, and they weren't as dynamic. They were a bit same. One was totally forgettable. One was interesting. But they're kind of, I did like the fact that, the girls stayed together in a group. They didn't turn on each other. They were able to support each other. I felt that was a better message than the original film, but it was a bit duller than the original film. But the original film was quite dark and sort of violent at the end. And there's some interesting things, like when they filmed the scene on the beach, apparently it was a beach that was supposed to be bad for Wiccan ceremonies, because they had a real witch on the crew to give them advice and that, and write the chants and everything. And when they tried to film on that beach, things kept going wrong. The tide would come in really high whenever they're doing the chants, then go away, and it washed out all their stuff, and they had problems with the generators, and the lights wouldn't, all this sort of stuff was happening. So it was interesting, doing a little bit of research on it, but I really liked it. I mean, I liked the reboot. The original is better, it's a classic, but they're good and bad for different reasons, so that's always good about a sequel, when you actually get something different, and it's sort of the same. And the end, I almost forgot, at the end you find out this girl was adopted because her mother had issues, and her mother turns out to be Fairuza Balk, who does I said her name wrong again, does a cameo at the end of the film. She's still in a mental asylum, basically, and she goes to see her, visits her, and she walks in, and we just see her sitting there, and that's it. I'm like, they got her all the way back just to do one shot where she says like one line, but that's what they did. But yeah, I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of the films. Thanks, bye.